I was painting in Richmond the other day. I didn't film, but I did take these photos on the day and it was beautiful. I love that Richmond looks like the country, but it's actually in London. It's kind of on the borderlines of London. It is a beautiful place, and if you are ever visiting, go to Richmond, because this is some of the things you can see up there. I was painting for about an hour that day. It was a beautiful spring day, and I went in and around the area and settled upon the view of Richmond Hill. And this is quite a famous spot, as a lot of artists throughout the years, big names like Turner, has painted this landscape. Even Van Gogh, I think he was in and around this area. He lived in Isleworth, so I think there is sketches of him around Richmond Bridge. So this area is definitely a well-known place for artists, and this view has been painted many times before. So I wanted to go up there and give it a try myself. So what you're seeing on screen is me developing the painting at home, where I got the first layer of the painting outside pretty quickly, and now I'm simply going over parts of it where I think needs a little bit more attention. I'm personally very new to in plein air, which is painting outside, and I'm very used to painting inside, where I've got my studio, got every paint I need, and going outside is very limiting. You need to really take with you the essentials, and you can't really go overboard with what you take. So I quite like to simplify my setup, where I'm using only the primary colours, red, yellow and blue, as well as a couple more colours like titanium white and violet. There's something about painting in plein air that is so beautiful. There's something that you can't really recreate in the studio, but when you're outside and you're in the environment, you can take it all in. And the challenge is not to create the most detailed painting, but is to recreate that energy that you're seeing and applying to the surface. I think we as artists need to be as connected as possible to the subject matter of which we're painting. So painting in plein air offers a much more direct way of painting. With that being said, I wanted to develop this painting a little bit more, and I've decided to not go too crazy with the details that I add in this session in the studio. So I'm simply going over select parts of the painting which I feel needs a little bit more attention, and what was something that I couldn't really capture on the day of painting. Remember that in plein air you're facing a lot of things that you wouldn't face in the studio, such as how it could be a windy day and you're having to face and deal with the wind, or that the light is changing constantly, the clouds are moving. There's so many things that you got to think of, and it really makes you a much more decisive painter. And if you're ever struggling with making decisions when you paint, I highly recommend going outside to paint, as you're faced with a constant change of subject matter as you're looking and painting. So I think it really teaches you to apply the paint in a way that's fast and efficient, as well as teaching you ways in which you can apply the paint in a way that comes across in the most informative and deliberate way of visual storytelling. And this way of thinking is something that can trickle down into your workflow as you're painting in the studio, and your mind becomes much more adapt to changing of ideas and energy and flowing throughout the process, instead of being stuck with a very strict way of working. So practicing something that is always gonna teach you ways in which to adapt and change, I think that's very important as an artist to progress, as you don't want to get too bogged down with what you're creating. I think that is something that I'm definitely discovering. And if you have been watching my videos over the last couple of weeks, I've been really thinking about that idea of being attached to certain things and progressing through that in a healthy and manageable way as an artist. I'm working now on the foliage within this painting, and the foreground especially will show off the most detail, and that is a rule of thumb for most of my landscape paintings. The most detail will be in the foreground, so I'm working in a lot of the leaves and foliage of the trees, and it doesn't have to be as detailed as you think. A simple brush stroke can tell a lot in the right place, and this is something that I have definitely analysed and worked on throughout my painting of landscapes, and seeing works like Turner and like Van Gogh, how they can use brushstrokes in a way to depict something that seems real, but upon closer inspection you can see that every brushstroke is just applied in a particular way to give off that illusion of what you're seeing. So I'm trying to get into that mindset, and I'm not getting too controlled in terms of my brush strokes. I'm trying to loosen up a little with creating certain things, and now that a lot of the paint is in order and visually it's showing off exactly what I wanted, especially a couple steps away, I'm making sure to step away from my work every now and then just to see if my work is reading well, and if it does, I then go ahead on adding the final touches. And now that I'm happy with the painting, I call it a day. There you go, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions as to my process and my plein air painting. I'm very new to this, so if you have any tips, please let me know. I'm in the mode of actually moving out of London, and I'm going to be heading to Dorset, which, if you don't know, is a beautiful place in the south of England. I'm very excited for that move, and I'm going to definitely be painting more outside over there, and I will be posting my progression in the near future. That's something I'm very excited about, and I'm really looking forward to it. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.